So this is the fourth project that I've done with Ava. We've done 3 other TV shows together. My first project with Ava was When They See Us, and so we've just really developed this beautiful collaborative relationship. And so I remember getting a call from her asking if I was available to do it, and I already knew that she was making this, and I had started the book years ago, but I knew of its importance, and so as soon as she called me, not only did I say yes, but she called me I think on a Wednesday or Thursday, and we set up a meeting for the following Tuesday, and I read the book in that weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it just, reading that book I think really solidified the importance of the work and how much I was so honored to be a part of it.
And it is a heavy read. How do you score to that? How do you write, create music that speaks to the experiences that are found in the film?
Yeah, I think there's a couple sides of it. One, I was immediately so inspired by the investigative work in the book that's so well represented in the film. And reading the book, I remember thinking about, or wished I could go back to all of the conversations I had with people arguing with them about racism, and now recognizing that there's a better word or a better way to articulate that experience. And so thinking about that research that Isabel did and the interconnectedness that she found, one of the things that Ava and I talked about was doing that with the score. So finding a way to go as deep as possible into the cultures that are represented in the film, but at the same time, making sure that the palette of the score feels interconnected so that it doesn't underline any sort of separation or create this siloed feeling. It's more about underlining the fact that this is all a communal or very shared experience. And so what I did, I started researching music that was written during the Holocaust, and found pieces of music that were written in concentration camps, and found it really fascinating how much the type of music that was coming out of that space and out of that experience. I also spoke with Dalit musicians in India and talked to them about that tradition. And so basically finding little bits I could pull from those rich foundations of music and embed some of that in the score. So even though there might be a string orchestra, there's soloist writing that's inspired by some of that Holocaust music, and they're playing polyrhythms that are inspired by the Dalit music. So it was really trying to find a way to have it all be connected through the palette.
Wow.
Kris, you are so talented. You can transform and get into different fields. We just had you on the Color Purple panel. You get all these different fields that you worked on. Tell us a little bit, how did you get started as a composer, as a pianist? Tell us, what's your background story there?
Yeah, so my parents decided before I was born they wanted me to play piano, and they're not musicians at all, but I think my dad probably was reading a little too much about the Williams sisters.
Right.
But yeah, they were really serious about it. So when I was 4, they found a music school for me to go to, and scoured the city for the best music education environments I could be in. But for me, it really became my thing when I realized that it was a vehicle for me to express myself in a way that I didn't feel like I could verbally. I realized at some point that I could be really angry or really sad or have these emotions that honestly didn't feel like they were okay to have as a young black boy, and I could go to the piano and play from that angry place or play from that sad place, and 30 minutes later I wasn't as angry or as sad. And so at that point I remember all of a sudden, people had to stop me from playing piano because I was like, I have to have this as a way to process emotion. And that's really what led to film scoring. Like I remember watching movies when I was a kid and then listening to the soundtrack on its own and then feeling the same swell of emotion, feeling the same sense of adventure that I did watching the movie, just listening to the music. And I had an aha moment where I was like, wow, that's a job to translate the emotions of a story into music. And that's all I've been wanting to do with this instrument. And so I told my parents when I was like 12 that I want to focus on jazz piano, but at some point transition into film scoring.
Wow. See, that makes me feel a little better because I'm a 5-year-old who's in piano, and it's not his favorite thing. but the reason why you're saying, for me, I just want him to have, he doesn't have to pursue music, but I want him to have a tool to be able to express. But could you talk a little bit about, because it's interesting when you get a project, you go in and do your research and really dive in. Talk a little bit about the process of when you are on a project and it's time to actually put down that emotion into music? Are you writing music out, or are you just getting on the piano and playing? What is your process?
And you had to do it rather quickly because she shot the film so quickly.
Yeah, I had, I think like 8 weeks or something.
Yeah,
for this.
I remember.
And yeah, it really, it reminds me of the process of learning and performing jazz, where you spend so much time in the practice room learning theory, learning scales, learning how to play over changes. But on the bandstand, you have to be in the moment and let go, and you're not trying to force something you were working on in the practice room into the situation. Anytime you try to do that, it kills the moment. So it's really about just being in the present. And I feel like the same for me with composing, especially for this film, I think more than any other, where I did all that research, but then I honestly just put it aside and just tried to respond to what I was watching. So I'd watch a scene and have a conversation with Ava about what we wanted to feel in that scene or what we wanted to feel about this theme. And then I go to the piano and I just improvise in that same way I did when I was a kid, trying to find a way to make myself feel the same way that I clearly felt watching the film. The first time I watched this film, I was in a theater by myself, crying, sobbing, watching this incredible story. And so for me, when I'm writing the music, it's like the feeling is already there, the visceral reaction is already there in the story. So it's my job just to figure out how to accompany that, how to enhance that, and if I'm not feeling the same thing I was feeling when I add my music, then my music is probably doing something since I was feeling it before. So with this one, I actually spent a lot of time improvising, and then I would actually improvise to picture and write things, like basically record my improvisation and continue to refine it and shape it until I had something that worked, and then I would orchestrate around it. So it definitely was a much more responsive, like visceral process than a lot of other projects I worked on.
You, in addition to being, an amazing, musical genius, you also have a growing presence as a filmmaker. And you have another film short that is this close to getting you nominated again for an Academy Award. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's a film called The Last Repair Shop. I co-directed it with Ben Proudfoot, who we co-directed a film a few years ago about my grandfather called A Concerto as a Conversation. But this one is really special because it's about the repair shop here in LA that repairs all instruments for LAUSD students, musical instruments. And it's the last in the country to do so. LA is actually the last major city to give free and freely repaired instruments to their public school students. And all the other major cities, New York and Miami and Texas, Austin, they've all privatized that process. And so here, there's now over 130,000 instruments that are repaired by just 12 craftspeople. And they somehow turn those instruments around. When there's a broken instrument, it's back in the student's hand in a matter of a week or so. And for me, I grew up here in LA, grew up in one of LAUSD schools, and so once Ben told me about the repair shop, because he found out about it before I did, I immediately wanted to be a part of it to, in a way, say thank you to these people that helped provide that working piano or the other instruments I played when I was a kid that were so important for me to process that emotion. And I really feel like if I didn't have that, my middle school and elementary school experiences especially would have been so different, because there were times in my life where I felt like music was not only my way to process emotion, but it was also my way to connect with some of the people that I didn't really feel like I could connect with in any other way. And so, and actually I found out that the piano technician at the repair shop repaired the pianos at my elementary school and middle school.
Oh,
and so
wow.
it was really beautiful to meet him. So yeah, we worked on it for 4 years and funded it with our own money until just recently LA Times and Searchlight picked it up, and yeah, I'm excited for it to be out there.
Wow.
Wow.
Well, now let's hear a little bit more music. So, what are you going to share with us?
Yeah, so first I'm going to play one of the most important themes for me for Origin. This is essentially the main theme for the film, and we first hear it when Isabel has a really traumatic moment, and the whole film is really about facing trauma and what do you do with it. And so this is the first time we see her dealing with that, and by the end of the film, this theme comes back in a more triumphant way as we start to see how much she's shown us the power in confronting and facing trauma. And so this piece is called Leaves.
All right. You know, this movie deals with so many different emotions from, you know, the loss that the Isabel character is dealing with while she's also doing the research and making all these discoveries about caste and its place internationally in the lives of so many different population groups. Yeah, how do you, because your music has to speak to experiences that are so big. So, I mean, is that intimidating? I mean, how do you work your way into being able to go to those spaces?
Yeah, I think, with something like this, it's one, being aware of that responsibility to represent these experiences and to represent the emotion that goes into these experiences, but also just trusting the emotional North Star. I think that for me, with this project, I would always write something based on emotion. Anytime I found something that felt like it was resonating emotionally, that felt like it was right. And then Ava and I would sit and watch it, and we would see if it connected with all of us in the room emotionally. If it didn't, we would continue to talk about exactly why it didn't and what spots can we maybe hone in a bit more to the emotion. And so really with this one, it was a lot of just like channeling, God or something other in terms of trying to just express what was coming through and trusting the instinctual response to that. And the other thing in terms of scale that was really interesting with this was there were moments where we were talking about very, very big ideas, and we actually went in the opposite direction musically, where the music is very, very intimate and small. And some of that was also to try to underline the intimacy of this global issue and the idea that, we might be talking about, I think about this montage we see later in the film where we're looking at imagery from, the dollar community and slaves and the Holocaust, and that piece of music is just a duo between the piano and cello. And that intimate approach to it, for me, made this very massive issue and sprawling issue in terms of geographically feel really close and really intimate.
Now, one of the scenes that's particularly powerful is the boy in the swimming pool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, man, you guys have to see this. It's a moment that shapes his identity, his point of view,
Yeah.
for his entire life. Talk about the music that accompanies it.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I can play, but that's something that just was one of the only standalone moments in the score in terms of themes.
Mm-hmm.
It's this moment where we kind of drop into this story and really go deep into this young boy's experience, and it's almost like this little vignette, just kind of visiting that story and coming out of it, but seeing how it ties into all of this. And that was another one that, for me, when I was watching it, just emotionally got me. I think, I don't know if it's, projecting my own experience onto this little black boy and not having experienced anything like that, but there's a moment where Isabel is talking to the little boy in this kind of imagined space, and she says, "You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay." And there's a tear that falls down his face, and that moment, every time I watch it, I start to cry. There's something that in me that feels like that's her telling me that I'm going to be okay. And so, yeah, that was another piece that just really came, again, just trying to channel what I was feeling watching it, and then shaping it to the film.
Could you share it?
Yes, yeah, definitely.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Thanks for having me.
This is just watching the passion in your performance, and so you can tell that you're really connected with the music. Now, when you're looking at these different scenes and these characters, how invested in the character do you have to be to really try to capture the emotion that they're feeling? Or are you kind of trying to find your own connection to the piece, or there's a combination of the two? Talk a little bit to that.
Definitely a combination, but the more clarity there is in the performances, the more clarity there is in the storytelling, the easier it is for me to find that feeling within myself. There's so many times where I watch something and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to feel. I'm not really sure what we're trying to say in the moment. And that always makes it a little bit difficult because I'm kind of grasping at what I might be trying to write to. And I think the beauty of a film like this is every single scene, the feeling is just so palpable because of the incredible performances, because of the incredible story writing. And for me, it really just is an obvious thing. When I watch something, I'm like, oh, that obviously is, this emotion or these series of emotions or this complexity in terms of emotion. And then I do also start to think about my own experience, like that piece, for example, thinking about, what any experience I may have had or could imagine having that could be even close to what that young boy was having, and pulling from that feeling, or, Isabel dealing with loss, like thinking about the possibility of losing my closest loved ones and what that would feel like. And that's that first piece, I think that there definitely is always an imagining that helps me go a little bit deeper emotionally, but having that initial visceral response from what I'm watching always is so helpful.
I feel like I'm getting the story just by the music
Yeah.
itself, right? You feel that? I feel like just hearing the music, I feel like I can see the scenes. Can you talk a little bit about, is there a particular scene or score within the film that you really connected to?
Yeah, it's amazing you say that. One of the things I often do with a lot of projects, and this one I did pretty frequently, I'll work on something and find something that I feels like that emotion, and I'll do this game with my wife where I go upstairs and I just play it on piano, and I'm just like, what do you think, what does that make you feel? And she has no idea what I'm working on or what it's for, and she'll tell me what it feels like to her. And I remember her hearing that first piece where the piece is just, and she was like, it sounds like, somebody taking the pieces of their life and trying to like put it back together. And that's exactly the scene that piece is written for. So yeah, I think that like so much of the process is trying to write something that can still find a way to evoke that feeling just in the music.
And do we know when this score will be available and where? I don't know what you can say.
Spotify, Amazon.
Yeah, it will be. I think we're trying to figure out when, because there's that limited time that the film is out right now.
Yeah, it's out right now. If you go and see it this week.
Yeah, only for this week, and then it comes back out in January. But I definitely strongly encourage seeing it as soon as possible. So we're trying to see if we want to release the score now or wait until that second iteration, so that when a larger group of people are going to see it, they can also listen to the score then.
Hey, do you have who's distributing it?
Probably Lakeshore.
Okay. Can you play us one more piece?
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Thank you.
Wait, and set it up. What part of the film?
I'm gonna play. There's a moment where Isabel is talking to her cousin Marion, and I don't want to give away too much, but Marion throughout the film represents this support system for Isabel as she's going down this journey, trying to figure out this story, this interconnectedness. And so this is a theme for the two of them that reprises later in the film, and it's a little bit brighter iteration of this theme, but the scene itself is
Powerful.
powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. This is called Cover Me.
Ladies and gentlemen, Kris Bowers.
Yeah, I think sometime soon. I don't have the concerts coming up, but yeah, I'll have to figure it out.
The album?
It's funny. I actually only have one album out that I made myself, like back in 2014. It's called Heroes and Misfits, and I played on other albums like Marcus Miller and singer Jose James, but that's my only album. And then after that, it's all been film scoring.
Oh, you gotta get a recording contract.
Yeah.
You know, thank you so much.
Of course, thank you so much.
And good luck with the work.
Hoping you guys enjoyed. You guys enjoyed something?
Yes.
Amazing, amazing.